Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Rolling Heritage, brand new video. If you have trouble of a leaking crankshaft seal on your Volvo B20 engine, and especially on the rear, there are kits for those. And those kits are actually an upgraded seal, because normally they have a felt ring which is keeping the oil out, or it should keep the oil out. And later on they adjusted it and they made a new system. This is the new system, of course, R&D car parts. And this thing is just working perfectly. This is a modern orange ring, and this is a ring with a spring in there, and this will keep the oil out without any problem. So to change this seal, it's a very difficult job, most people would say. But we are going to show you today that it's not that hard, and you can even do it on jack stands in your own garage at home, or even just outside in your front yard. So what do you need to do to change these seals? So guys, the car is up. Over here you can see the underside. Robin is busy at the transmission side, and I am busy at the rear drive shaft. And we need to take this apart. The front bolt is 7/16, so you need that 7/16, and the rear, the nut of this bolt is actually 1/2 inch. So when you have this undone, you can then put it back, drop it down, shove it back to the car, and then this part is done. Over there, also 1/2 inch 7/16, so you need to get those 4 bolts undone, and then you also need to do these 4 bolts, and then you have your main bearing over here, which are 2 bolts, one over there and one over there, and you can get those loose. And these bolts are also 1/2 inch, so that is all you need to know about the drive shaft. Underneath here you can see this very nice contraption with cable. That's your handbrake. You don't need to touch that, that's not important right now. We just need to get this drive shaft off of here, and then we can continue by removing the cross brace of the transmission and then the transmission itself. Let's go. So guys, when you have your drive shaft disconnected, which are, like we showed you, 4 bolts on the front, 4 bolts on the rear, and the cross member in the middle, then you can actually just slide the axle backwards. Don't take it apart fully, because you need to mark exactly which tooth is on which position. If you don't do that, and of course, the drive shafts are 2 separate pieces, and they are shoved inside of each other with splines. And if you don't use the same spline which it was on, then you can have the problem that it's not balanced anymore. So I like to, if it's possible, just to shove it over the rear diff and just to do the back, so it can be connected and not taken apart. We are just focusing on the gearbox today and the main crankshaft seal, and of course the upgrade for that. Now we are gonna remove the gearbox itself. Before I was actually removing these bolts. So before I started filming, I was actually removing some bolts from the bell housing already. And the bell housing is the housing that bolts to your engine, and the other side bolts to the gearbox. To disconnect that, you need some wrenches, and then you can get two of those bolts from the top. So I'm standing here at the air filter side of the engine. This is a single Stromberg one, pretty simple engine. And if you go down there, you can actually see this point. Here is 1 bolt, and down there is another one, and then you go down there, another one. But those bolts can be undone from underneath the car. And if we go up here, and then we go up here, then you can see the point which is directly behind the cylinder head. There is another bolt. You can get these out from the top, and trust me, on a 240 those bolts are the most painful process of the whole gearbox removal. So I hate doing this job on a 240 on the floor on jack stands, but I kind of like doing it on a Amazon or 144 because it's such an easy job to do on your own. It's not hard at all. These cars are so fun to work on, and yeah, don't tell Robin, but I secretly love this car. Let's remove the bell housing. I'm going to show you guys everything you need to do, and then we can remove the gearbox, and then after the gearbox, remove the flywheel. After the flywheel, we can remove that bad worn out seal. Let's go. So guys, we are underneath the car. Over here you can see the gear shift linkage. Over there you have the drive shaft, which runs all the way to the back. And as you can see, I've shoved it over the diff over there, and then laid it here on the handbrake cable, which will be fine later on. You can get a jack stand under here, but it shouldn't be a problem. This is all made to flex a bit, so that's fine. Over here you can see that shift linkage, which we will undo later. For now, we are gonna dismount this speedometer cable. Now you can get some nice grips on there, and then turn this dirty ring you see over here loose. Come on, focus. Yes, this ring. And when you undo that ring, you can then pull the speedometer cable out, and I like to just shove it behind the exhaust on the side, and then that's also done. When that's fully done, we can then remove this bolt, and 2 bolts behind the exhaust over there. And when those are undone, and also the center bolt of the gearbox stand, the gearbox mount, the rubber, which you can see over there. When you have undone those 5 bolts, we can drop this beam. Of course, put a jack stand or a jack, underneath the gearbox housing over there, so the gearbox won't fall down, because if the gearbox falls down, the engine also falls down, and then you can shear off your engine mounts. So guys, over here you see me removing the transmission mount bracket on the gearbox itself, and this thing needs to be removed because otherwise you will catch on your exhaust. So guys, we need to remove the gear shifter. So we have my grandpa's old tiny wrench. With tiny, you can see it on my hand. And this thing, a Robin film. I did this on my Amazon too. It should. Look at that. That's that. And now you need to remove this huge ring. Come on. And when you have removed this, you'll have a very dirty gear shifter. So now we are ready to remove the full gearbox from the underside. Let's go. So guys, over there we have the car, and over here we have the gearbox. As you saw in the time lapse, it was a very quick time lapse because it went very quick. One guy was operating the jack, that was Robin, and so he was in the front over here. I was underneath the car, and I was just pulling the gearbox down, back, down, back, down, back, and back down, and now it's out. So it's a pretty easy job. Of course, I've done it many times before, but another thing, this gearbox is just a total mess. It looks like this now, but it looked like this a couple minutes ago. This thing is full of metal shavings, and not really metal shavings like that you can feel, except that I have now some on my finger. But we put a magnet in there and it looked okay. Just some black goo that is everywhere on this thing, but we'll see. For now we are gonna go underneath the car. We are gonna disconnect the clutch, the flywheel, and then we can finally get to the seal we are about to change. Yeah, first we need to get the clutch off. Let's go underneath the car. So guys, laying underneath the car, this is the clutch, of course. If you haven't seen a clutch before, well, this is how it looks. This is a metal casting. You can see all those rivets over there. That is actually a metal ring, and there are forks you can see over here, which are really sharp on this car. These forks are pressed in by your bearing, which is in the gearbox, which is over there. And then when you press the clutch, you actually press this ring, which is the bearing. You press it inwards, which will press in all these forks. They will hinge on these rivets, so it will actually work like this. And when the ring will push back, it can take the whole clutch plate, which is behind there on a metal diaphragm. It can get it, it can push it back, and then your clutch will be released. And if you take the camera and look inside of there, those springs you see are actually the clutch plate. So this piece is the clutch plate, and in front of there you have your main bearing, your pilot bearing, how you want to call it. But it's all doable again, so we need to take off all those bolts. And my best advice, when you take one of those bolts out, turn it like 5 turns, then do all of them 5 turns, then do all of them another 5 turns, so it comes out of there like evenly and it can't break anything. Because if you take all of them out except one, it can just pivot on one bolt and break the whole stuff off. So yeah, look out for that, and let's go. So, flywheel's off, clutch is off. So this is your clutch plate, and to see if your clutch plate is worn, this one is very worn. As you can see, there are nice ridges on here in the center of the plate, and you can also see those rivets which are in the center and in the back are just completely filed off. So the flywheel and the pressure plate are actually just grinding away those rivets. So this one is completely scrap. We can throw that away. So we need a new clutch plate and we need a new pressure plate to push in the clutch, the big thing we just removed. Behind there is the flywheel. Flywheel is actually just a big metal round thing, which of course starts the car, because over here is your starter motor, and those teeth over here are just grabbing inside of your flywheel, and that is starting the car. For the seal, we are now getting to the main part of the video, the rear camshafts. Rear crankshaft seal. This is your crankshaft. This is the rear of your crankshaft. The front is actually your timing stuff in the front, behind the big silver metal box. To replace the crankshaft seal, behind here is a felt ring. And Robin, can you also grab a flathead screwdriver? So behind here is a felt ring, and the felt ring is actually pressed in there by a metal clip. And I am gonna try to show you guys that on video by removing that clip. Yes. So let's hope this works. Pew! So over here I'm removing this thing. This is a metal ring. This is not so important. And behind there is the actual old crankshaft seal, which is now just powdering up. This thing is just gone. As you can see, this is just crumbling away in my hands. I can just tear it apart. It's super easy. This thing should be soaked in oil, and this thing should be pressing on the inside ring against the crankshaft outer side to keep the oil in. Of course, this thing is just completely done. We are gonna replace it with this thing. This is a brand new set of seals, and how this actually works, if you see the inside of here, you can see there is a lip. It's of course in the package right now, but there is a lip, and in this lip is a round spring, and the spring is actually pulling that ring inside. So when you shove a axle in here, it will actually squeeze tight onto the axle, and there are also some grooves in the inside which are turning inwards just like a screw. So what happens if oil wants to get out of here, the running motion of this axle will actually suck the oil back into the oil pan, and that's why almost every new car is running one of these red seals. We are actually ready to install this thing. So I'm gonna take out the gasket, take out this complete seal, and take out the bolts. So guys, when you get these gaskets, most of the time they are too big, so I like to cut off the excess material, because that's just not necessary at all, and it makes it very much easier to actually mount the thing, unless there is a speedometer cable hitting your head every 10 seconds. So guys, everything is underneath the car, clutch wise, flywheel wise, and everything else. The only thing we need to do is throw the gearbox back in there. So we have cleaned that full thing out. My advice, if you remove your full gearbox, take a good look at your clutch, or just order one and replace it just beforehand, to just be sure that it's correct and okay. The other great thing I advise everyone doing this on their own, if you take your gearbox out, take the top cover off, get some gasket making paper, make a new top cover gasket, and just clean the full thing out with brake cleaner. And then with cleaning, I mean just smacking 3 cans of full brake cleaner in there. Get everything between the teeth, just get every single bit of old oil out of there. Throw some new, it's ATW90 I think. Yes, ATW90 that needs to go in these things. Some people might discuss that, but that's what I use. That's what Volvo recommends for these gearboxes. On 240s it's ATF, on these things it's ATW90. But for now, we are gonna go underneath the car and throw this gearbox back, and yeah, we should have this thing ready in a minute without any oil leaks at all. So guys, Robin is actually finishing up the gear shifter. The gearbox is back in the car. Everything is filled up with a brand new 20W50. And that's also a great tip. If you run a B20 in a normal climate, with winter, with summer, with everything, which is not too hot, like the Netherlands, where I live, don't run like 10W30 or something. B20s, old engine, high mileage, 20W50, and especially I'm a huge fan of these. Castrol 20W50, and by the way, these things just look crazy cool, those old cans. You can buy them brand new. But the car is done, so no more leaks for now. It's filled up, it's done. Robin is, as you can hear, struggling with the shifter. And yeah, everything should be done. So Robin and I are signing out. This was it. So for today, yeah, we fixed a leaking Volvo 144. Thank you guys for watching. I really hope you guys can fix your own now, and I really hope you guys know how to do it. Yeah, putting everything back is just the same as taking everything out, so that's why I'm not really focusing on how you get everything back in the car, because it's just the same as taking it out but reversed. So yeah, that was it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, and bye bye.